Alright, well that was fun. Time to get back to it. Hey, take me back to the Sonic world.
You know, abuse of my space powers is not what I agreed to in my contract.
Oh, shut up. It's not like I'm doing anything wrong in these worlds.
You stole the Master Sword.
No, I just procured it. That's all.
Ugh, just don't steal anything again. Please.
Alright, Sonic 2. Let's do this. After the smash hit that was Sonic the Hedgehog, you'd think a sequel would be greenlit near instantly. But no, honestly the backstory of Sonic 2's development is pretty wild, to say the least. Future convict Yuji Naka felt on top of the world after Sonic 1 and thus wanted an increase in salary, as he was the head programmer behind Sega's now biggest game, but they refused, and he actually left Sega of Japan. Enter Mark Cerny. Yes, Knack PS4 Mark Cerny, who was in Japan around the time and went to Naka after learning about his troubles. Cerny had recently started the Sega Technical Institute in America as the means to get more games made in the United States, and offered Yuji Naka a job at STI where he would not only get that better pay he wanted, but better working hours and better working conditions. Needless to say, Mark Cerny sold Yuji Naka on the idea, and so Naka, along with some members of Sonic Team, left Sega of Japan to move to STI. Not long after that, STI proposed a sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog to Sega of Japan, but Sega rejected the idea of making a sequel, citing that it was too soon to do so. This was a sentiment that Sega eventually flipped on, probably when they saw the sheer amount of cash Sonic was making them. However, they gave the green light to the sequel around 2 to 3 months after the initial proposal, and still wanted the game out by the holiday season of 1992. If that sounds insane, well, yeah, this is Sega, so get used to it. Sonic 2 had a lot of cuts made from the final version. Time travel was planned and scrapped. This mechanic where Sonic would rebound backwards after colliding with a wall, which, yeah, good riddance. Whole levels, such as Wood Zone, Hidden Palace Zone, Genocide City/Cyber City Zone, a desert level, and a winter level were all also scrapped. It's been estimated that if Sega gave them the green light when the initial pitch was made, that Sonic 2 would be nearly double its length, and keep in mind that Sonic 2 is already a bigger game than Sonic 1. Sonic 2 features so much new content. Most importantly is the introduction of Sonic's new sidekick. Sega held yet another internal contest for the design of Sonic's new buddy. Yasushi Yamaguchi submitted a design for a two-tailed fox named Miles. Now, I appreciate the pun, I really do, but STI thought that the name just wouldn't cut it here and gave him the nickname Tails, which I believe was absolutely the right call. Now, which sounds better to us filthy Americans? Sonic and Miles, or Sonic and Tails? Miles sounds like he could just be some guy because it's a normal-ass name. Rather unfortunately, the game's development wasn't going smoothly at STI, mainly due to the work culture differences between the devs, which caused them to not get along all that well. To my knowledge, this would be the only Sonic game to be co-developed by the Japanese and American developers, which is rather unfortunate. Sonic 2 was set to have a worldwide release in late November of 1992, which I believe makes it one of the first games to do such a thing. Sonic Tuesday is what Sega dubbed the release day, and they went all out on promotions for it. The game sold roughly 6 million units worldwide and became the second best-selling Genesis game, just behind Sonic 1. Sonic 1 isn't held in much high regards nowadays, but Sonic 2 is, to this day, touted as one of the best video games of all time. Let's see if that's true and go into why Sonic 2 is seen as the perfect sequel that it is today. Our story begins with Sonic taking his biplane that he has for some reason, the Tornado, to the nearby West Side Island for a much-needed vacation, only to discover that Dr. Robotnik has returned and is searching for the Chaos Emeralds once more to power his biggest invention yet, the Death Egg. A little on the nose with the reference there, but hey. This is when a local of West Side Island, Miles Per Hour, spots Sonic running by and is awestruck. He follows Sonic, who takes a liking to the fox. He's able to use his two tails to not only keep up with Sonic, but also fly. Together they travel the island to thwart the evil Doctor once again. One of the big additions to this game is multiplayer, as you can either do a 2-player versus mode, which we'll touch on towards the end of the video, or you can have a buddy accompany you as Tails for the main adventure. The main adventure multiplayer, though, is ass with a capital A. The camera is always focused on Sonic, and since Sonic had his speed cap removed from the first game here, Tails will only be on screen for about like 3 seconds before Sonic just blasts off. Speaking of Sonic, let's actually talk about him for a second. I love the new sprite that he's rocking. It's more colorful than how it was in the first game and slightly slimmed down a bit. It's my personal favorite sprite for him in the classic games. The controls in this game are roughly the same as last time, however Sonic and Tails have this new ability, the Supersonic Spin Dash, at least that's what the manual calls it, but really, it's just the Spin Dash. Hold down and mash the fuck out of any of the face buttons to rev it up and watch Sonic and Tails blast off, achieving speeds that you wish you could achieve in the first game. This is an amazing addition to Sonic and Tails' movesets, and if you're playing this via the Origins collection, you gain access to the Mania Drop Dash. And Tails can fly when played as. Yeah, that was a bit of an odd decision in the Genesis original. The AI could fly as Tails, but when you were playing as Tails, you couldn't fly. Like, well, why? Emerald Hill is the starting zone of this game, and I much prefer this to Green Hill Zone. It has a more tropical aesthetic, but I dig it, and I think that's what matters. And the corkscrews, you can't forget the corkscrews. There is a much better balance of speed and platforming here than there was in Sonic 1, which is much appreciated. Hirokazu Yasuhara returns as this game's level designer, and he stepped up his game by like 3 whole notches. This game has such fantastic level design, and there is rarely a dull moment here like there was in Sonic 1. You're likely to notice some format changes from the first game here as well. Nearly every level now has 2 acts per zone, which is just perfect. Nearly no zone overstays its welcome, with one exception, which we'll get to later. With 2 acts, though, that means getting the Chaos Emeralds via the special stages is going to be tough, right? Well, no. Instead of holding on to 50 rings and reaching the end of the level, crossing a checkpoint with 50 rings will cause these sparkles to appear. Simply jumping into them will have you teleported to the game's special stages, the half-pipe. Back in the Sonic 1 video, I mentioned how Sonic special stages can be either hit or miss. Well, let me tell you, I hate the goddamn half-pipe. It's the most reoccurring special stage in the series, and while this isn't the worst one, this just sucks. God, especially in the Genesis version where everything is rendered as 2D sprites, and thus, you have no time to react to stuff. Origins and the 2013 remaster render the special stages in 3D, which makes them so much better to deal with. Your goal is to collect the specified number of rings and avoid bombs that cause Sonic and Tails to drop 10 rings each. The ring requirements for these can get stingy and strict, and God help you for playing as Sonic and Tails. Tails' movements mimic yours, but are delayed by half a second, and if he collects a bunch of rings and then gets hit, he can make you fail the special stage, and God, nothing is more painful than getting to the final segment of this special stage, seeing the emerald right there, but because you didn't have enough rings, Sonic and Tails just give up. Like, it's right there, just... There are 7 Chaos Emeralds now, which means 7 special stages, and fortunately, there is one hell of a reward for getting all the emeralds this time around instead of just the better ending. But let's wait a minute to talk about that. Act 2 now always has a boss fight with Robotnik at the end, and these are just pathetic. If you know what you're doing, you can bum rush the poor bastard. Like I know they weren't great in Sonic 1 either, but seriously, look at how fast I could beat the Chemical Plant boss. To go off script for a bit, I know Sonic bosses are always, they're meant to be easy, but the point is that you can blow through them really quickly, and I do appreciate that. I just wish there was more challenge to them. Then again, what do I know? Hopefully me saying that doesn't come back to bite me in the ass later in the series. Speaking of the Chemical Plant boss, Chemical Plant Zone is the perfect follow-up to Emerald Hill. These fast sections of gameplay where Sonic can outrun the screen are just exhilarating, and the water climb segment towards the end always makes my balls clench, since if you're not careful, you can drown or get crushed. I definitely understand why Sega loves to bring this level back in later games. Everything about it just clicks in all of the right ways. It's here at the end of Chemical Plant Zone that I also got the final Chaos Emerald. Yes, if you know where to go and can hold on to your rings, you can get all 7 emeralds by the second zone, and the reward you get for doing so breaks the rest of the game in two if you abuse it. This is the first game to give us Super Sonic, the super fast, golden glowing invincible state that is a not-so-subtle reference to Dragon Ball. Just have 50 rings and either press jump while in the air, or Y in Origins, to transform into this state. Super Sonic is faster, invincible, and is just all around more cool than the normal Sonic. He's not completely invincible, however, as Super Sonic can still drown, fall into bottomless pits, or be crushed. Aquatic Ruin Zone is the water level of this game, and it is infinitely better than Labyrinth Zone. For starters, you can just ignore the water if you know how to take the right path, and even then, the water sections just aren't as annoying to deal with as they were in Labyrinth Zone, so that makes this zone better by default. One thing I don't like about this zone is these arrows that shoot out of these Robotnik pillars. They can just blindside you if you aren't paying attention. Anyway, just watch as I abuse Robotnik as Super Sonic for the funny. Casino Night Zone is most comparable to Spring Yard from the first game with how bouncy of a level that this is. But I dig the Vegas feel a lot more than the nighttime city look. You can even gamble your rings away here, which is awesome, don't gamble kids! This zone even has these crusher block segments like Spring Yard, but they don't take up nearly as much time. Hey, you can even find the Xbox logo here, how about that? Next up is Hilltop Zone, which is literally just blue Emerald Hill. That's not even a joke, this zone reuses Emerald Hill's tile set and recolors them to be blue, just like Sonic OCs. This is the kind of lava level of this game with these Barney the Dinosaur enemies, seesaws, and these vine lifts that can take you down, and goddammit, Tails! This level also loves these sections with rising floors and, Tails, what is up with you in this zone? Huh. Neat. Mystic Cave Zone. You know, this is probably my personal favorite zone in the game. I love the usage of greens and purples here. The cavern look just rocks, pun entirely intended. That's a reference to something Sonic related, I just don't remember what. There are also these crusher pillars that for some reason look like green turds to me, but yeah, fuck it, it gives me a good laugh. In Sonic 2, there was this inescapable spike pit that you could fall into towards the end of Act 2, and you would just be trapped and killed in it no matter what, and God help you if you were Super Sonic. But the Christian Whitehead remaster, and here in Origins, that spike pit got replaced with something rather special. Welcome to Hidden Palace Zone. Yes, the cut level from the original game was re-added back in, with finished level design and new level gimmicks like these water slides, and even a new boss fight, which is kind of obnoxious to deal with, but hey, it's still cool as shit that this happened at all. It's also just one act, so it's short, but a very sweet detour. Oil Ocean Zone. I think this is where my interest in the game starts to wane a bit, you know? It's not that it's the level design's fault, I just don't think I like the aesthetic of the zone. I can't even throw a match into the oil here and watch the resulting nuclear-sized explosion. Also, these seahorse badniks just suck and can get in some cheap shots on you. Metropolis Zone. You know how I said Oil Ocean is where my interest starts to wane? Well, yeah, here, it drops off like a cliff. Like, fuck this zone. It's long. It's chaotic. It's 3 acts long. Why is this zone 3 acts?
I can't explain this, actually.
Hey! Scram! Who said you can do these?
The contract that you and I signed agreed that I can interject with random tidbits about video games whenever I please.
Fucking... God... whatever.
One of the cut levels from Sonic 2 was Genocide City, which was later renamed to Cyber City for obvious reasons. Enough work was done on the zone to where level maps were completed, but due to the deadline, the zone was scrapped, with only one of the level maps being reused for Metropolis Zone, and the level tiles would be reused for the Sonic Spinball level, The Machine. That's just what was reported on by Yuji Naka. The actual level maps we have of Cyber City don't actually resemble any of Metropolis acts at all, so I guess he lied. What else do you expect from a convict?
This zone is also home to some of the worst enemy placement I've ever seen in a Sonic game. Astrons aren't that bad, they just have these small projectiles that can catch you off guard, you know, that's whatever. Shellcrackers have these big, meaty claws that extend out, and they're always placed in tight corridors, which makes them hard to hit. Then there's the Slicers. They throw their arm scythe projectile thingies that follow Sonic for a moment, and they're always placed in the worst locations. Like, look at this shit. Look at this shit. Okay, calm down, CeeCee. Alright, let's get back to the topic at hand. Eggman escapes his west side base of Metropolis and flees to this flying fortress with Sonic and Tails hopping in the tornado to give chase. Sky Chase is a 2-minute auto-scroller which honestly is welcomed as a brief moment of slowness and allows you to gather your thoughts after the mess that was Metropolis Zone. Sonic and Tails catch up to Robotnik in Wing Fortress Zone. However, the tornado is shot down, meaning that for the rest of the game, Sonic is on his own. This level always has my hands clammy, as it's over a constant bottomless pit, and this section where you're platforming underneath the flaming exhaust of the fortress just always unnerves me. Fortunately, Wing Fortress is quick as it's only one act, and if you got Supersonic, the boss fight is a complete and utter joke. Robotnik hops into this rocket and flies off with Sonic unable to get him. However, Tails comes in to save the day as he repaired the tornado and added this jet engine to it, allowing Sonic to catch up to Robotnik and board the Death Egg. The Death Egg Zone is nothing but the last two fights of the game with no rings. First is Mecha Sonic Mark I, the first of many robotic Sonic clones made by the Mad Doctor. It may seem intimidating at first with no rings and all, but just play it cool and you'll destroy the robot doppelganger. Sonic then gives chase to Robotnik, who could outrun him the whole time, goddamn! But he retreats into his ultimate robotic creation, the Death Egg Robot. With a jetpack in the back and spikes in the front, this thing was made to kill Sonic. He'll rocket into the air and try to slam back down to squash Sonic. He'll also shoot his spike arms out as projectiles. This fight can be a game ender if you don't know how to deal with it. Fortunately, I find the best way to take care of this fight is to just play it safe. Wait for when he doesn't have either of his arms in front and bop him. After 10 hits, the robot collapses and the Death Egg goes up in flames as it starts to hurtle back down towards the planet, with Sonic jumping out to escape. If you got all 7 Chaos Emeralds, then Sonic will be supersonic for this cutscene, with Tails flying up to greet him. You'll even get this cool ending pose, which is nice and all, but I don't actually like this ending. Like, yeah, it's cool and all, and the pose is badass, but I actually feel that the bad ending is the better of the two. Let me explain. Regardless of which ending you get, Tails will see the Death Egg exploding and will take the tornado up to rescue Sonic, and in the bad ending where he isn't super, Tails actually catches Sonic on the tornado right as the music swells, and God, it is just perfect. It's an excellent display of the camaraderie between Sonic and Tails that I feel is lost in the good ending. Tails was obviously meant to be Sega's answer to Luigi, and I feel that there's more of a display of the friendship between Sonic and Tails in this one cutscene alone than the brothership between Mario and Luigi of any Mario game up to that point in time. Oh yeah, if you're playing this on Origins, then you also get this ending card with a hint of what's to come next. God, what a fantastic game. Yeah, there are some moments I didn't like, but those are just a small percentage of the overall package, and they're fleeting moments at best. Finally, let's talk about the multiplayer versus mode, which is interesting to say the least. You and a friend can race through select acts of select zones with this horrifically squashed aspect ratio that just sucks! Not to mention, this lagged like hell on the Genesis. It's a neat addition, and the thought is appreciated even if the concept was a little too ambitious for the time. I lied about the multiplayer versus being the finally part of the video. The finally part of the video is actually going to be the music, so lastly, let's talk about the music in Sonic 2. Masato Nakamura returned to compose the music for this game, and just like how everyone else stepped up their A-game for this, so did he with the music. To list off some of my favorites really quick, Chemical Plant is a bop, the Mystic Cave theme just reminds me of the Inspector Gadget theme. I think there's actually a Silver Gunner mix of that somewhere on the internet. The boss theme, the final boss theme, the ending and credits music. The ending music was so good that Nakamura actually reused it for a song for Dreams Come True called Sweet Sweet Sweet, and give it a listen sometime, I implore you. There is also this unused song that for the longest time was associated with Hidden Palace Zone. But every prototype that we have of Sonic 2 uses the Mystic Cave 2-player music. Even the remaster in Origins used that and not this song, which just begs the question, what was this song meant for? Sonic 2 may not be a perfect game, but it is absolutely a perfect sequel to what was an okay first attempt. Yeah, it may have some frustrating moments, but those are all overshadowed by the sheer joy I feel when playing Sonic 2 as a whole. If you haven't already, please play Sonic 2. It is a joy of a time and well worth your money. With all of that said, I hope you have a great day or night. Peace.